I think most paralegals would agree that probably trial work is one of the most stressful parts of the paralegal position. But there's also a lot of other parts of the paralegal position that don't really get talked about, that creates a lot of pressure on the paralegal. I know this arises for me when I get a text or a call or an email from an attorney that says, I need this now. And it feels like you have to drop everything on your plate, rearrange your whole priority list in order to get this done. That can be stressful. Another part of the stress is being so detail-oriented, being very meticulous, making sure that everything is in compliance. A lot of this could very well hinge on the entire outcome of the case. Being in the criminal sector, any potential missteps could prevent a dismissal or an acquittal or a better plea deal for the client. There's a lot of unique pressures that I believe paralegals face. I know I'm not alone in feeling them, especially as of lately. So I'm creating a video not only to bring awareness and bring attention to these, but also discuss some skills in order to overcome or manage some of these pressures in the field. So the first pressure that I feel a lot of paralegals face, again, including myself, is accuracy. There is no room for error. I've heard of so many examples where something that might seem very little, such as a missed signature on a document, cost the entire case that the paralegal didn't catch. Specifically being in the criminal legal field, a lot of people would say, well, it's not life or death. I would beg to differ that being in criminal law, especially where states still have a death penalty, that it is life or death. And I would also equate being sentenced to life in prison without parole is pretty much a death sentence. You're not living the same way you would in prison as you would outside of prison. Accuracy is everything in order to get our client the best deal and be able to avoid death or life in prison without parole. Some examples are missed deadlines. Sometimes these can be remedied. Sometimes you can go petition or motion the court in order to get an extension. But missed deadlines I think is a big one. That's why it's so important to make sure that you calendar super effectively and have systems in place in order to set task reminders, whether that's through email, whether that's through the case management system. Always make sure that you're documenting. Even if you get that notification that a deadline is coming up and maybe the firm can't meet it, at least you can be proactive in taking those proper steps, such as petitioning the court or talking with opposing counsel, letting them know what's going on and seeing if you can get an extension or make a deal versus letting that deadline pass and then who knows. Another big point of missed accuracy, I believe, is incorrect filings. I think this is a really big one that I've seen anyway, where paralegals or other legal professionals, they maybe don't look at the local court rules on whether it's formatting, page numbers, other types of setup with the captions. It's super, super important. Not only the content of what you're putting in there looks great, but also the formatting. When I was a court clerk, we had to reject stuff for like the littlest things. It could be a spacing issue. It could be the court file number was in the wrong place. That's the type of tedious and meticulous work that's on the job of the paralegal in order to maintain accuracy, to ensure the filings get submitted and then accepted. The last piece I would say that needs to maintain accuracy is planning and developing defense theories. Now, all of these can take a huge mental toll on an individual when you have that much pressure. So practice makes perfect, but again, systems in place for you and your firm to ensure that stuff doesn't get missed, to remind yourself to look at those court rules, to remind yourself to talk with the attorney about these defense theories, to maybe do some extra legal research to look into this. That is going to reduce the likelihood of being inaccurate and being sure to maintain accuracy so that there is no room for error. Another pressure I feel paralegals face, especially new paralegals just entering into the field, is navigating attorney dynamics. Now, I wasn't taught this in paralegal school. We were taught a lot of legal research and writing, but we were not taught anything about the dynamics of a law firm. I mean, we know what an attorney is, we know what a paralegal is, legal assistant, but having that relationship with the attorney can definitely be really tough to navigate. And I can't tell you how many, frankly, toxic stories I've heard from other paralegals trying to work with their attorney where there's maybe unfair expectations, having that boundary of, okay, how long am I going to try to understand or tolerate this behavior? How much longer am I going to be flexible? What am I going to be flexible, understanding about? It's all going to be based on the individual, based on the law firm itself. I think paralegals struggle and have that pressure so much on them where they don't necessarily advocate for themselves. Advocating for yourself as a paralegal is equally as important in order to be able to take that pressure off you. And another thing I would say is we're understanding different personalities, moods. We're also balancing priorities and expectations. That's a lot of balance to take into consideration. I'm a Libra, struggle with that on the daily. The last thing I want to touch on that I feel like has been even more of a pressure in recent years is staying current in the changing legal sector, in the changing legal field, especially with tech right now. Obviously, AI is taking the world by storm. There's been so many different legislation changes on a community level, a state level, a federal level, of course, since the new administration. And it can be really difficult staying up to date, trying to make sure that you're in compliance with everything. For legal tech in particular, this is developing new e-filing systems, new case management software, AI tools to help from intake all the way to legal research and document drafting. I personally wouldn't recommend the legal research aspect right now, but you know what? Maybe there's AI platforms out there that work that I just don't personally know about. So there's the pressure to have legal knowledge, the interpersonal skills, the tech knowledge. I mean, paralegals are a Jack and Jill of all trades. If that's not pressure, I don't know what to tell you. That's why this topic is important. There's this hidden, emotional, intellectual labor of paralegals that I don't think gets addressed. And I don't say this in order to take away the spotlight from attorneys. There's a lot of pressure with attorneys. In a different way, I think it's more accepted in the community, it's more known in the community. Paralegals, not so much. This is having a huge impact on the paralegals' mental health, on job satisfaction. They just realize, okay, with the mental toll, I'm not satisfied in the field, I'm not getting paid enough, etc. I think this is why a lot of paralegals are either going independent or they're switching different positions because these hidden pressures and things that are coming about just aren't getting addressed, and maybe there's not a healthy workplace in order to talk through these things. That's why the awareness and support for paralegals is so crucial to keep the retention of paralegals, because attorneys need paralegals. They might not think they do, but they do. I already touched on some skills throughout this video about building systems for accuracy, checklists, templates, double checking your work. I also touched on effective communication skills, setting boundaries, clarifying expectations, and learning to advocate for yourself. I also touched a little bit about reinvesting in yourself, taking some continued education courses, some CLEs, webinars, getting some certifications. That's going to set you apart from the rest. It shows that you have the knowledge in order to be successful in the paralegal role. Lastly, what I want to touch on that I don't believe I haven't too much yet is just mental health and wellness. Now, I'm not the best at preaching this stuff. There's definitely other people that do a whole lot better job talking about mental health in the legal profession. But firstly is just recognizing signs of burnout. We all feel it. It all happens. It ebbs and flows. But when it's not ebbing and flowing and it's just continuing, I definitely feel like that's a red flag to maybe take action. I would also say learning stress management, mindfulness, taking breaks when needed, exercise, and most importantly, seeking support. I know I struggle with this one. Thankfully, the paralegal field, in my experience, has been so awesome with like peer-to-peer support and mentorship. There's NALA, there's NFPA, NALS, statewide paralegal associations. There is so much community if you're willing to look for it. All needless to say, you're not alone. Your work is very important and vital. And I invite anyone to share their experience. If this resonated with you, if it didn't, if there's things that I missed, if there's things that you want to see more of, feel free to comment or reach out to me on LinkedIn. I would love to hear from you. If you're interested in more legal content, specifically criminal law content, feel free to like, subscribe, follow me on LinkedIn. There's definitely going to be more coming your way. Thank you so much for watching, and we'll see you in the next one.